Yeah, we're recording now, Sarah.
Brilliant. So very, very warm welcome to you all. Thank you so much for joining our masterclass for our Beyond Blended Pilots Phase 2, using AI to support staff with curriculum design. And really delighted today to have 3 of our pilots presenting and sharing their work. So we're going to be hearing first from Dr. Julie Lindsay, who is joining us all the way from the University of Queensland, as well as some input via a recording that Lachlan, who is not able to join us, unfortunately, has shared with us. We'll then be moving on to Jim, who needs no introduction, but so is joining us from the University of Northampton. And then we're going to be hearing from Dr. Alison Purvis from Sheffield Hallam University. So thank you so much all for joining us today, and also just sharing the work that you're doing. And I think it's going to enable us to have some really interesting conversations as well. We will have 5 minutes after each of our speakers' presentations to take any questions. But if you have got questions as well while they are presenting, please just pop them in the chat preceded by a Q, and then we will be able to pick those up after each presentation. Thank you, Julie. And just to add there, a bit of a plug for DigiFest next year in March. We have got Danny as one of our closing keynotes. Fortunately, joining us online, but it will be fabulous again to hear Danny's work. So yeah, that's a plug for DigiFest as well. Right, I think thank you, Julie, for that fabulous session. And I'm going to hand over now to Jim to carry on the narrative.
Hello, everyone. Bear with me, I'm just going to share my screen. And I do have to apologise, there may be animal intruders because my cats have brought in a Christmas mouse. Obviously, it was too cold out in the garden to play, so they brought it in. So if you hear anything going on with that, or you see cats going up the tree, I apologise, but we'll carry on. I am going to take you through, I'm not going to read all the details here, but it's a bit of a trip back into time related to the Jisc Beyond Blended work that we did in the first phase, but equally looking at the university approach to how we leveraged and worked with Microsoft Copilot. So rather than, as Julie's done, looking at external platforms, how we might be able to engage with it. I'm going to take you very briefly through a number of the different things on here, but one of the reasons that I put this picture up is from that Jisc Beyond Blended day, but it's equally because of the yellow hat, and you may or may not be aware of Edward Bono's 6 thinking hats. Well, the yellow hat is about thinking about the value. And that's one of the things I use as a physical metaphor for when I'm going to use AI. What is the value I'm going to get out of this? So the university was engaged in a pilot with KPMG, and we've got John and Jakob with us. Thank you ever so much for coming to answer any questions if you wanted to reach out to them. But the idea was to give staff across different departments 100 licenses to the premium version so that you got more functionality above the standard. Thinking about the Beyond Blended approaches, the synchronous support was through live webinars, which would talk about different applications, use cases, thinking about how people may work on their prompting, so giving basic guidance. And if you haven't used or heard of GCSE, or if you're not promoting GCSE, it is a great standard to use in order to get the most out of your different LLMs and your different prompts. And the fact that we had the experts from KPMG to work with, to reach out to, and it really did feel as if it was an ongoing support mechanism. Asynchronously, we developed a Microsoft Teams area so that if people were working on, I want to do something in Outlook, and they could put an example in or a problem that they were facing, it would be then available to them. I put Notepad in there because there is no AI involvement in Notepad, but no one really noticed. So that was just a little bit of an Easter egg to me to see if the most powerful tool within Windows would actually have AI usage. extending from that, it was to build a community, because we were all different areas, all different ways of working with technology. So we had interdepartmental collaboration opportunities, and a champions network was developed so that we had people who were willing to go and work with other people. If there were particular problems that people posted into the chat or through emails, there was a support. It was an unofficial champions. We didn't get badges or anything like that. It was just the fact that the people who were most eager, most willing to support, and had the capacity to support, could then work across the institution. That led to what was the hackathon, and the idea of that was to think about how you might then use the advanced features of the license and things such as building an agent. So there's a bit of a theme with Julie's work, looking at how agentic AI might be used within the institution. The idea was to come up with those ideas. You may be working in small groups or across different teams, but we had the experts in the room to work actually on those agents. And the idea of it was that it would be a competition, and that did turn some people off. Gamification isn't for everyone. Some people felt, no, I want the time for these ideas to just talk about them, not to feel as if I've got a deadline and I've got to deliver a pitch. But the idea of the pitch was that if the idea was something that could benefit and impact and add value to the entire institution, then the support was going to be provided to that team. And actually, the one that won was the dissertation support coach. So the idea being that in a dialogue with students, someone could work with the agent. This won't give the agent to the students. This was about, in the dialogue, of supervisor could then have a consistent way of giving information appropriate to the needs of the students in a consistent format. So that project is being rolled out. Bearing in mind that there were only 100 licenses, we had some people who didn't use those licenses, and so the license was reissued, but it was limited to 100 licenses. So the restriction on the use cases was, we can't afford for everyone to have a license. So Julie's already given an example about the vending machine. I like to think of it differently. So I have an idea of, I could ask the chat, give me a picture of a cat on a surfboard. What's the value to my life of that? What's the value to my work of that? Compared to an agent, where I could get an agent to create an image of a cat and to email it to me at 12 o'clock on a Wednesday. And the idea of that is that you're interacting with content generation, email synchronization, and automated tasks. And the idea being that that might be for my own personal well-being. It might be a reminder, go and get your lunch, take that break that you deserve. So that is the way that we've approached it. And as you can see here, we've got a range of different agents, some of these that came out of individual projects, some of them that were group collaborations. But once we've got all these agents, the worry I had is, well, how do we share them? How do we work with them? How would our institution deploy those agents? And so that's where I came up with the idea of the agency. And this is where I'm going to bring John, not bring John in, but I want to acknowledge John's work in the overviews that he did of different products. I was not even aware that we had access to Microsoft Whiteboard within our institution. So seeing that you could use AI within Whiteboard actually revealed a bit of my digital, or lack of digital, capabilities and understanding around the fact that we had this technology. So this was an opportunity for me to do it, and it became like a storefront for our own internally developed resources. Some of them might be about supporting your academic integrity. Some of it might be about dissertation supervision. Some of it might be about marketing or processing. But I, obviously working in response to this project, wanted to bring in the Beyond Blended. Now, I do want to acknowledge that the name of the KPMG project was the Microsoft Copilot Pilot, and then we've got the Beyond Blended Pilot. So there was a lot of pilots flying around. So sometimes it's best to just step back. And the idea, I'm going to try and do a live demo here, but in the presentation is essentially the same thing. And if I go here, I can now ask something of the Jisc Beyond Blended resources. Okay. You can see there, it's got some different responses that I picked up. But this one, I'm doing a debate on learning styles. What should I consider? And it takes time, because the idea, and I'll show you the configuration, is that in the background, it is looking at all the resources. It's looking at all the different elements of the Jisc Beyond Blended. It's not down to us to go through and make the decision and select whatever it is. The idea is that we're interrogating the entire knowledge base around Jisc Beyond Blended. So as you can see here, for any of those who believe in learning styles, I do apologise, and please don't be upset with me. Come back and talk to me if you want to about this. But the idea is that even at this point, we're helping inform practice. So we're giving a reason, a validity around why you should think about the different elements of Beyond Blended in thinking about how we might work with this in doing the debate. So thinking about the tools and platforms enabling participation in the debate, equity and accessibility, all those things that are embedded within these documents, that are embedded within our strategy, but now just based on the prompt. And please do feel free to jump a prompt or drop a prompt into the chat, and I can post it into this as part of the Q&A at the end. But you can see now we're actually getting closer to that combination of the real-time opportunity. What is best for this person at that point of need? And one of the things I was thinking about, and I'll just show the sources. These are the sources that it's chosen to kind of interrogate and share, so we can dive deeper into that. The question is, do we deploy this to staff? We can't. We don't have the licenses. It's a pilot. We might lose those licenses. But the idea of an agent and being able to work with someone who may not have an understanding of what an agent is, to be able to think, this is you and I working together, interrogating a thing. This is not sage on the page, but guide by the side. And we can then define what that guide is going to be looking at. And you can see here the back end, quite extensive prompting, and actually some of that about the fact that learning designs were an inherent bias. Sorry, not learning designs, learning styles were an inherent bias within the model. I had to then take that bias out through the prompt. So we can customize these agents to the specific needs and awareness of the specific biases, and point it to a set of resources. Replace those resources, take Beyond Blended out, and you could put your AI, you could put your academic policies in there. You could put a range of research items in there. You could look at assessment load across different institutions, combine them together, and then interrogate it with very specific guidance. So this is where we are now starting to think about how we might integrate this within our Cairo, creating aligned interactive resource educational resource opportunities. No, I'd get it wrong one day. But the idea is that how do we make it meaningful? How do we meaningfully bring those resources into that discussion? And so for us, it will be about that. Look, this is something I'd like us to do. We're thinking about an activity design. We're thinking about inclusive approaches to assessment. We're thinking about alternative assessments. How might the Beyond Blended resources give us guidance into that? And is it appropriate for us to dive deeper into that? Or is it enough that we've got an awareness of it, and then we can send that person off with that resource if that's the need? That will then support AI literacy amongst staff. Is there an opportunity for staff to ask questions? What is the difference between a chatbot? All I've seen is pictures of cats. I don't need pictures of cats. Now, one of the things I didn't do was put my hat on when I was using the AI. There are enough pictures of cats. If people are seeing that that is all that AI is, we need to think about the mindset. How is this going to add value and benefit to your work? And so, is it relevant for us to have a joke around Beyond Blended? Probably not. But actually, the fact that we can interrogate that we can have that dialogue and that discussion is the important thing, I believe. If you want to know more about the on-site day, I've got a little playlist there which you can have a look at. This picture was just beautiful. It was taken during the hackathon, and it is thinking about the AI agent beside you, not defining you, not replacing you, but it's down to us. And sometimes they come out with cracker jokes. Sometimes they're not too bad. So let's move on. Quick advert break. Julie, if you'd like to come back on the mic. Julie and I, through the first iteration, got to know each other, and so we decided that we had a lot of short stories to share. So we decided to come up with a podcast. So Julie, over to you very briefly.
Yeah, look, I've just put the link in the window, and this is thank you for the opportunity this is actually our launch. So thank you, Sarah, and everyone in Jisc. We have 3 episodes up there. The most recent episode is with Sarah and Sheila. We chatted with them, of course, about Jisc and the Beyond Blended pilot. But Jim and I, of course, live on the opposite sides of the world, and we've been exploring the tyranny of distance and having conversations and really talking our way through challenges. And this is a great opportunity to share different global perspectives and invite different people in.
So to the Allisons, to John, if you want to come in and have a chat with us, just freeform, please do get in touch, because this will become the kind of unofficial Beyond Blended podcast. But it's from the first iteration, it was, where do we share our stories? Where do we have the chance outside of these sessions to actually have that communication, which then neatly leads on to the Learning Design Cross-Institutional Network. We have a Teams area, and within that Teams area, we have a dedicated area for Beyond Blended pilots. So if you do want to get involved, if you do want to share, see what things are happening in other institutions, or just connect to other people, please do get in touch with me. And that's it. Pictures of cats.
Hopefully they'll find the mouse. Thank you.
Fingers crossed.
So much for generously sharing your work. The podcasts are fantastic, and I think it's a lovely way of really starting to share the stories that are emerging from the pilots, and to really encourage that collaboration, which we know is there in bounds when we all get together in a virtual or a physical room. So please do take up Jim's offer to share your work around the pilots. And also, if you're interested in a potted history around the work we've been doing, listen to Sheila's great insights as well on the last podcast. I think it's fascinating just to hear again the way that you have brought staff in to really start having a play with AI, and love the idea of the hackathon, Jim. I've got one question, but when I ask that, please do get your hands ready to ask any questions that you may have for Jim. My question is, have you thought about doing something similar with students around a student-based hackathon? I appreciate that that's probably got something to do with licenses, but I could just imagine it would be great to get a similar event with students happening.
It happened last week. That was the next innovation, was to look at the student union and working around how we may support our processes separately from student involvement in the development of our what's called Study Smart staff and student facing AI upskilling resources and courses. So the idea was thinking about how might we use these things, and if you're not aware of it, if you're worried about it, and certainly if people are concerned of it's going to replace my job, is it appropriate? Is the task that you're thinking of something that you should be spending a lot of time on? And that's where students can say, well, tell me what's going to happen in 3 years' time in the sector. We don't know, but we can only prepare you with those digital capabilities and the AI literacies that will support you with that. So there is ongoing work, but definitely the hackathon moved into student-focused approaches.
That's fantastic, Jim, to hear. And again, some really lovely ideas there, I think, for others to sort of take away and build on and build into their work. Have we got any questions? Sheila?
Yeah, just another more of a comment. I think, Jim, again, thank you so much for sharing that. I think that key issue around time, though, is really emerging through what you're talking about just now as well. And it's really important to create those safe spaces, times and spaces for educators and students to have that play in a safe space, to find out what AI can do for them when it's going to be appropriate. So I hope that when it comes out of this phase of the pilot is just emphasizing that need for time for people to interact and to really experiment with these systems, because I think there's that narrative sometimes from some companies that, oh, this is going to come in, it's going to save so much time. But again, it's that kind of readjustment of time. It's actually, we're going to have to give people time to actually realize what the value of using these systems can be to them in their own context. So just thought it was interesting, that kind of whole time thing coming through as well. Thank you.
And in one of the videos when I was delivering this session to some academic staff, they were saying if it's going to take me 10 hours to build an agent, then it's really not worth my time compared to the process. And the discussion there was about, well, it shouldn't take you 10 hours. It should take you less than an hour. And there's been times when I've focused on, I'll spend an hour trying to get AI to do the thing that I know I need to get done. And I will ditch it if it's not working the way, because I know that I can't spend 4 to 5 or 10 or 20 hours developing an app if I know the task is going to take less time. Yes, there's efficiencies in the future as far as the fact that it might not be just me doing that. There might be 100 other people who are doing that, and therefore it's the expanding of it, the sharing of it that's the important thing. But it's a balance. It is really about the time saving and the time investment. And that's where I think a lot of people instantly say it's going to replace my job. Well, how much of your job do you think it's going to replace? Is it more important for you to send out a lot of emails? And that was something that did come up. It can generate automated emails to students. Yeah, but do we want to do that? Do we want to have a situation where the students feel that it's not the tutor in contact with them? And we even had a kind of not a time saving, it was to play about what would happen if 2 AI agents were, or email Outlook agents were to talk to each other. It didn't save time compared to the human aspect, which comes back to that value. Is this adding value to me at this point? Can I see the value of developing this thing? And that was very important for a lot of staff who were concerned. And I haven't even mentioned Cave's colleague is against virtually everything. It's more the fact that there is the capacity. Have I got the capacity to learn? What do I need at this point of need? I've got 20 minutes to get through this. Okay, well, starting you at the start of Beyond Blended is not going to work there. What is your specific need?
Thank you, Jim, and love the comments that Rob has been putting in terms of the winning entry was optimizing timetabling for commuter students. And I put there, if we could solve that, that would be an absolutely fantastic winner for the whole sector, I think, Rob. So you're onto something there. Thank you so much, Jim, for sharing that, and you'll see as well, I think lots of comments in the chat following on from that. Well, on that note, can you just join me in a virtual round of applause for Julie, Lachlan virtually, Jim and Alison for, again, really bringing out the value of the work they've been doing and sharing that, and the collaborative opportunities I think that all 3 have mentioned in terms of us being able to use, adapt, share how we might be taking some of their work forward as well. So with that, I will draw the masterclass to the close. We will be sharing with permissions as well the slides, which I know Julie and Jim, you've already shared yours. Alison will get yours as well, along with some of the links that have been populated in the chat window, and share those all with you along with the recording. And can we just wish you, I know it's only the 3rd of December, but just wishing you, when you get to it, a relaxing, technology related break, and very much look forward to working with you all again in 2026. It really is such a privilege, for us and the team to have the opportunity of working with you all and gaining such fabulous insights. So thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in 2026. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers all, thanks.